Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the Meros Center, a research and training community for Christian health ministry. It's a privilege to serve as the executive director. My name is Jason Paltzer, and it's a blessing to be here with all of you tonight to celebrate this achievement that we've worked hard to do together. Meros is a joint venture between Wisconsin Lutheran College and Kingdom Workers. Tonight you're going to hear from Dr. Dan Johnson, myself, Elise Meyer, a student on one of her experiences in Guatemala, and then Dr. David Miller. So with that, I want to introduce President Johnson and have him come up and give us some opening remarks.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to WLC. It's so great to have you here. You know, this whole theme of community health has been something that we've been talking about for probably going on a decade plus. And but probably things got getting more serious with conversations with Kingdom Workers right before COVID hit. And then it kind of put a halt on it. But Bill Meyer from Kingdom Workers and representatives from us and Jason have been really walking down this road. It took us across the country. We've looked at other centers. Covenant College has a similar center down in Georgia, Wheaton College down in Illinois. We really did a due diligence and really planning this because really what this is a venture of two ministries that we all care about and love and remarkably blessed by the Lord that have unique things that it brings to the table. We could not do this without Kingdom Workers. Kingdom Workers could not do this without WLC, and ultimately none of this would be happening if we didn't have the funding and the resources to really start this. We said from the very get-go, we're not going to be able to do this unless we have secured funding for several years out to get us down the road. And a huge blessing to the Schwann Foundation, who happens to be a foundation that supports both WLC and the Kingdom Workers. And then some just very, very dear friends of WLC, Jerry and Kay Fisher and their family and their foundation. Again, both friends of WLC and friends of Kingdom Workers. And we really shared the vision of what this could be. And here we are tonight. And so without further ado, I want to just allow us to really talk a little bit about what this thing is, particularly students. While we go, what is this Meros Center? Through the evening, we'll be able to better understand what we're going to be doing. And we really just want to engage all of you. And so on behalf of WLC, this is a big moment for this college, and it's a big moment for our partnership, which we've been, Kingdom Workers and WLC have gone way back from the very beginning. Matter of fact, a lot of your folks at Kingdom Workers are our graduates and a really close, tight connection. So we're thrilled about this evening, and I just want to welcome you to Wisconsin Lutheran College and the Meros Center, of which we're here tonight. So with that, thank you, Jason.
Thank you, President Johnson. It's great to see all of you here. And tonight, I'm just going to share with you who we are, what we do, and how we do it as the Meros Center. Ultimately, we are a community. And that's why it's great to see so many different faces here tonight, coming from different places, different walks of life, all interested in this one thing of faith and health. How do we do this together? We are a community where relationships and research reflect Jesus, our Savior. That's why we're here. This is the common thing that unites us all. One of the greatest things is that we have the greatest story to tell. That's what we want to do. As we pull each other in, each playing our own parts to tell the greatest story that we have to tell. We exist to create a space for this to happen. To create a space where it's not just about the research, it's about the relationships that happen through the research. Elise is actually going to bring this up when she talks about her experience. And it's just a really neat testimony of how, yeah, the research is important, but it's how we get to connect with different people from different walks of life, all moving toward a closer relationship with their Savior. And we all get to be a part of that. As President Johnson stated, this started almost 10 years ago. As I was working in Zambia, so a little bit about my background, I spent 6 years living and working in Zambia as the Health and Development Director. It was really during that time where I came face to face with this gap in our understanding of community health, which we have public health, we have healthcare, we have theories, we have evidence-based practices that help us along those guidelines. And we have the church. We have the church that helps us walk in our relationship with Jesus, helps us learn God's word, understand Him, and apply Him in our lives. But as I was working in between these two worlds and trying to integrate, how do we best do this in a cohesive way of helping people walk in their health, in their wellness, while at the same time knowing who they are in Christ? Looking for models, looking for best practices, and just could not find them. That's really what motivated me to ask this question of what does the integration of faith and health look like? How do we do this well? How do we learn from each other and share best practices about what this could look like? So we were each working in isolation. Public health was talking about the spiritual determinants, but had no idea what that really means. The church talks about compassion ministry, humanitarian aid, Christian welfare, but how do we do that well? A few years ago, I was working with two colleagues, Mike Soderling for Health for All Nations and Dan O'Neill for from the Christian Journal for Global Health. We started asking a similar question. And we did a study of faith-based health organizations, and we got to learn a bit about what are barriers to these organizations that are doing this work, to leading them do the research that we need. Is there an interest? Is there a demand? And we found that yes, there is a demand. In fact, 70% of organizations said we would like to do this, but we don't have the time, the finances, or even the knowledge of how to do research with our programs. So it was here that we knew there was a space for us. It was here that we knew that there was something we could contribute and bring organizations together, bring researchers together, bring students together to help fill this gap. This is the Meros Center. So why us? Wisconsin Lutheran College is a courageously Christian educational foundation. We need this to have our roots in the Bible, the truth of God's Word. This is essential. WLC provides this foundation for us. Kingdom Workers provides us opportunities in global missions to integrate the gospel and build local relationships that help us carry out Christian welfare. So we have these two pieces that are essential coming together to form this joint venture. We also have our team, which is growing now of 3. For our team, we have decades of experience in public health, in global missions, in education, in engineering, in research. Each of us is playing a part to serve across disciplines. This isn't just a public health or a healthcare center. This is meant to reach across disciplines because that's how people are living in this context where these different aspects of life are coming together. All around one person, one family, one community. How do we understand these different dynamics? Integrated together as people live what we hope to be healthy communities around their Savior. I'm going to introduce our team to you. I told you a little bit about my story. I'm going to share with you, Alicia Courtright is our research manager. Right now she is in Kenya. In fact, she is in Kakuma in one of the refugee camps, meeting with some of our members there in the refugee camp on behalf of Kingdom Workers. But she recorded a little video for us so you can get to know who Alicia is.
Hi, I'm Alicia Courtright, the research manager for the Meros Center. I'm really excited to be part of this new community of people looking to highlight the importance of spiritual health in overall health, as well as trying to be good stewards of our resources. What a blessing it's going to be to build each other up and glorify God together. I'm also really looking forward to working alongside our student research interns and our other academic partners, as well as nonprofits that are looking for a little extra support to measure and share their work with the world. Thanks so much for being part of this launch event today, and I'm looking forward to meeting each of you.
So that was Alicia. I also want to introduce Rodney Rosenthal. He's here tonight. Rodney is our operations director starting December 1st. I'm really thankful that Rodney gets to be here because he is going to be based here on campus at Wisconsin Lutheran College. So I want you to see him, put a face with a name. As you see him around, think of that's the Meros guy. And bombard him with questions, bombard him with really hard assignments that he's then probably going to come to me with and say, hey, how can we do this? But I wanted to give Rodney a chance to introduce himself so you know who this guy is and why he's walking around campus bugging you to get involved with the Meros Center. So I'm gonna just have you take that, Rodney.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. It's just really an honor to be here and really a privilege to be part of this undertaking. What a passion! What a great idea! What a great inspiration! And I'm really looking forward to, yes, answering your questions. Find me. I will be located, as he said, on campus here. Find me, ask me questions anytime. And icebreakers are easy with me. I love to be outdoors. Ask me about my latest hike. Ask me about my latest fishing trip. And I'll ask you about what your motivation is and why you think Meros Center is the greatest thing that you've ever heard. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Rod. And Rod comes with a engineering, management, business background, and so I share that because, again, this is something that goes across disciplines. And this is something we get to do together as each part plays its role. Meros itself is Greek, and it means just that. We all have a part of something. We all have a portion of the whole. 1 Corinthians 12. We are all a part of the body of Christ. That's Meros. So I wanted to highlight that this is meant to be a diverse group. So if you feel like, oh, that's not for me, I challenge that thought and ask that you just come talk to us. And if there's something that strikes you, the mission, the vision, an opportunity, I ask you to give it some serious thought. So why now? Why something like this at this point in time? We believe the time is right. People are seeking connection and belonging more than ever before. We are in an epidemic of loneliness. People are feeling it. People are getting frustrated by it. Not just in the United States, all over. People are marginalized, ostracized, getting removed from their communities that they once relied on. So there's an opportunity to bring connection where people are seeking connection. But not only that, right? People are seeking purpose. They're seeking truth. And yet it's becoming more and more difficult to find that, especially outside of a biblical worldview. At least in the U.S., we know among young adults today, only about 6% have a biblical worldview. So it's easy to see why there's this gap and yet this striving toward identity. Who are we? Who are we in community? Who are we meant to be as created in the uniqueness that God knit each of us together? We all have a role to play. We all have a part to play. We can help people find that. We can help people make that connection. Again, getting back to that tagline, we are a community where relationships and research reflect the love of Jesus. That's who we want to be. Organizations, as I mentioned earlier, are seeking evidence. They're seeking information about what works best in this space of community health ministry, in global missions, in health. How do we integrate faith and health in a meaningful and effective way? We believe that we can help do that. Not just through the research, but telling the story behind the research. Telling the story of the community that we're working in. Honoring that voice through the questions we ask. We believe we can do that. We want to do that, and we believe that there's a need for it to help and walk with organizations increase their impact. Our vision, we will be a vibrant hub of networking and discovery, where disciples of Jesus live out his mission in community. Strategies from Meros will be used throughout the world to grow the church and create powerful partnerships that integrate faith and health. I hope and pray that this is a vision that you want to get behind, that you would want to be a part of. This is rooted in Scripture, as I mentioned, and we want to be biblically rooted. A couple of key passages that I find as centering passages for me as I lead this effort. I also hope for you, and I wanted to share these with you. 1 Peter 4, verse 10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. This is foundational for us to really believe this and find that in each person here, but also people we work with in the field, in the community, in the organizations, the researchers that are all part of this puzzle that we're trying to move forward as the church. Ephesians 4, verse 16. From him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. There is work to be done, but that work is connected to and tied to Christ. And that is essential for us, to know that and to live that out in everything we do, in the questions we ask, in how we work together, the culture that we build. So what do we do then? Okay, that's great. This foundation, this vision, but what is it that we do? We do four things. Number one, we give access. We give access to cross-cultural training, where we can help learn from and share ideas from each other. We offer global mission connections. We provide a connection to organizations in the field, research centers in different countries, to give you the experience working in global missions that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have had. And we develop resources from the research that we do, developing new strategies, improving on existing resources, and making them available. Oftentimes, it's not that they're not there, it's sometimes that they're hard to find or that they're not accessible. And that's one thing we want to change. We want to be that place where people can come, where they know there's like-minded, mission-minded folks behind the scenes offering good resources that they can trust. We want to be that entity. We want to improve impact and credibility for organizations. For organizations that might be relying on their practices of the past, on traditions. Just by giving them a space to test their assumptions. Number one, to identify their assumptions on what is leading to their programs. Why do they have the programs that they are currently doing? It's been a blessing just to have phone conversations with organizational leaders and directors, asking them, well, what is your model? And they have a hard time articulating it, but when they do, all of a sudden they're challenged by something that they realized they're not sure about. So we get to be that entity that helps challenge assumptions, but then create a place to test them and to innovate them moving forward. We get to help organizations steward their resources effectively. When I describe research, I describe it as storytelling and stewardship. That this is a means to effectively use the resources God has given each of us, particularly in organizations that are on the field. Not only for their own programs, but then working together collaboratively with resources they may not have, but someone else might. How do we make those connections so they can increase not only their impact, but their credibility as well in this space? The data through the research is important, but as I mentioned earlier, it's only important as the story that's being told through and with the data. And having access to that story in a collective space. That's what we want to try and do. Training. One of the things that you'll start to hear about is a certificate in community health ministry that will be offered through the Meros Center. This will provide a foundation for you if you're interested in learning more about how we do this. Growing skills and competency in participatory learning strategies where we work with communities, not just for them, but with them. Providing the same space to test assumptions that are within our communities, within our cultures that often we just don't question. We provide a space for that so that we learn with them as the community, as the church community. The certificate helps you sharpen your skills in engaging with communities through these strategies. You get to practice it, get to learn from others from different cultures. Hopefully, that by learning this, no matter what discipline you're in, what your major is, what your field of research is, if you're a faculty, that hopefully this helps you step more confidently into your purpose. Because we all want to engage with communities better. We all want to engage with people around us more meaningfully. And there are some really neat strategies to help us do that. This first certificate will walk us through that. The first course by Dr. Berg on the theology of health just gives us that foundation of why this is important for each of us. The second course is on principles of health ministry. That's more the practice of these strategies. The third course is on mental health ministry, where we really talk about what are some of the issues and challenges, not just in the U.S., but globally, that people are facing in mental health. This is a global issue. And then the last is a 4-week practicum where you actually put it into practice and come back and reflect on how it went. It's challenging because we are testing, as we test assumptions, we're creating tension. And this tension is often, it's not comfortable. Nobody wants to be in a position of discomfort. And yet it's that discomfort that is often transformative for us. How do we be intentional about creating those spaces to make that happen? That's what the certificate will lead us to. So training, another certificate that will launch next year in 2024 will be about research design. So specifically, if you are interested in learning more the research specifics when it comes to community health ministry, this will be that training for you. And then lastly, research collaborations, connecting organizations, researchers, students to help define the problem. And then the questions that are related to that problem. Asking the right question is critical in starting the research process. What is that? What should it be? How can the organization, the community, be a driving force behind that? We walk alongside them. Another big piece of this is communicating the information. There's a lot of data out there that's just sitting. And if it's not communicated or disseminated, what good is it? So being a part of that and making sure that we get the word out and we disseminate accurate, valid information is important. Through this, we identify new strengths. Organizations identify new strengths that may have been hidden in the past. And that's been really, really important to see. People that all of a sudden come out of the woodwork that they didn't realize had that skill set or that gift or that interest. And we get to walk alongside them and help them be a part of that process as they identify those new strengths. And then, of course, stewarding resources effectively. As they grow in their credibility, it does provide new funding opportunities for them, new grant opportunities for programming that they didn't realize they could have access to. So it's a really great opportunity to have those collaborations and making those connections happen where maybe they wouldn't have happened before. Tonight, I get to share with you an unveiling of our video. This is an introductory video of the Meros Center. This is the first time it's being debuted, so really appreciate you being part of this moment where we get to really launch the Meros Center and this great, what I think, hopefully you think it's great.
Meros. In Greek, this word means to be a part of a whole. As Christians, we know that each of us has a specialized role to play in God's kingdom. And when we come together with those gifts to care for the broken world around us, we can do amazing things for God's glory. We are excited to introduce to you the Meros Center, a research and training community for Christian health ministry. At the Meros Center, our greatest hope is that our work in community health will reflect the love of Jesus to the world. So how do we do that? The Meros Center is a place where students, health professionals, volunteers, and curious minds can come together and access relevant research, evaluation tools, valuable training, and connections that are often difficult to find. Here, health ministry initiatives are empowered to innovate and improve outcomes while increasing credibility in the broader health community. Wherever they are, participants receive training to implement and evaluate these gospel-centered health strategies. In this vibrant hub of networking and discovery, believers can work together to reflect the life, ministry, and mission of Jesus.
I'm going to provide two examples for you of how we do this. One example is a direct collaboration between WLC and Kingdom Workers. Kingdom Workers has a program for survivors of domestic violence. It's a survivor advocacy program that was developed with a really great training. But the question was, how do we more meaningfully connect with individuals that have survived a domestic violence situation? That was the question. And so we did some research with some WLC students, one of which is here today, a former WLC student, now a Marquette Master's student, but Michaela Sullivan, can you stand up? This is Michaela. She's been working on this project now for about over a year, interviewing domestic violence partners and organizations around the Milwaukee area, asking questions about what does it take to be a good partner? What would you want to see in a faith-based partner? And really digging into how could we create a program that could align with what those shelters are looking for. She's going to be here tonight after the event too. If you're interested in that project, it's still ongoing. Now we're to a point of also interviewing pastors on what they would think about some of that work and supporting a church partnership with a domestic violence shelter. So we get to get both sides of it, which is really interesting. So she's here. If you want to learn more about that study, please find her after the event. The other example, which is going to provide more of the presentation part, I'm going to have Elise Meyer come up. Elise Meyer is going to talk to you about her work in Guatemala. She spent 5 weeks in Guatemala doing a study for us, working with an organization there on community health evangelism. So this will be a really great example to see how we hope to do this and get students involved with research. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elise.
Thank you, Dr. Paltzer. So, hello everyone. Thank you all for being here. I just want to introduce myself a little bit. So, as Dr. Paltzer said, I'm Elise Meyer. I'm a junior here at WLC. I'm studying Spanish and anthropology with an emphasis in cultural anthropology. So just a little bit of background on me. My parents were missionaries, so I was born overseas in Malawi, Africa, and we also spent some time in Portugal. I just wanted to share some pictures from when we were in Malawi. This is my sisters and I at the baptismal font at our church in Malawi and us in Zambia. So I spent first grade in Portugal. this was a really neat opportunity for me, and a lot of the experiences that I had traveling overseas and in Portugal have affected me today as an adult. So I used to speak fluent Portuguese when I was in first grade. I guess, I don't know, first grade minds can pick up a language really quickly like that. I don't remember any Portuguese now, but I'm studying Spanish, so I think that definitely assisted me in my studies for that. This is my family and I when we lived in Lisbon, Portugal. And for those of you that know my dad, it might be fun for you to know that he's also a master sandcastle builder. So I just included a picture there. So when I was in first grade, I went to a regular school. I was the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid there, which is okay. And I made friends pretty easily, so I wasn't afraid to approach people and just introduce myself. For our recess at first grade, it was pretty stereotypical, where all the girls played together and all the boys played together. The girls were playing like hopscotch, jump rope, singing songs, picking the flowers out of the schoolyard. And the boys, they always played roll down the muddy hill, or who can climb the tallest tree, and played other ball games and things like that. So one afternoon, I remember at recess, I decided that I wanted to join the boys' soccer game. So I approached the boys who were playing soccer. They were running up and down the field to each side of the goal, scoring points and whatever, but they were kind of ignoring me. I tried to approach them and ask them if I could join. I was a small little first grade girl that wanted to play soccer. When I finally caught their attention, they had already let a couple other boys join this game. So I was kind of sad. I was like, why aren't you letting me play soccer? I just want to play soccer. I'm just a little first grade girl. But when I finally got a chance to talk to one of them, they told me, no, I can't play soccer because I was a girl and they were playing the boys' game. This was my very first heartbreak, and I went home and cried to my mom about it for days and days and days. And I still remember it. I'm 20 years old, and I remember this traumatic event from first grade when I wasn't allowed to play soccer. But I wanted to bring this up because I think this is where my competitive nature may come from. When someone tells me I can't do this really big, daunting task that's out of my skill level, I feel all the more motivated to do it and do it really, really well. So when I was approached with this proposal of being part of the Meros Center pilot research project, I was kind of nervous at first. I knew that this was a really big project. I'm just a 20-year-old girl from Wisconsin, and I was supposed to go research faith and health in Guatemala. I don't know anything about that. But as I was learning more and more about it, I just became really interested in doing a really good job. So I'm really excited to be here today to tell you guys about my experience in Guatemala and how, even though this project was kind of bigger than what I thought I was able to do, we have some really awesome research that happened, and I am super excited to share it with all you guys today. So when I was first introduced to the Meros Center, my dad told me about it. So he plays a pretty big role in Kingdom Workers, so sometimes to get the ins and outs of some of the projects that they're working on. And he knows that I like to travel, so that's what he started his pitch on. He said, Elise, do you want to go to another country for a long time? And I was like, yeah. How do I get there? So part of how he introduced this to me was I'd be traveling for some faith-based motivation. I wasn't sure what that was exactly or what that really meant. But the last thing he told me was that I had to do research to get there. I was not particularly interested in doing research in order to travel. But he got me with the traveling for faith-based motivation, so I was willing to be part of it and just join in and see what was going to happen. So this started in the spring of 2022. I took a class with Dr. Peltzer, and he walked me through preparing for research. We selected the Global Chain Network as the project that I would be researching. CHE stands for Community Health Evangelism, and they do research through reaching people who need physical health needs met and pairing that with gospel messages. So my job was to study how the Global Chain Network functioned in Guatemala and see what I could do to give them empirical data to improve their functionality. So Dr. Palter and I, he just taught me how to take their mission statement and turn it into what would be a research project. We decided on turning this into a questionnaire format. So the goal of my study was to put together all the data that I needed before conducting the research, including an IRB proposal, doing research before landing there so I know what languages they speak, do we need translators, lots of little details that we were supposed to figure out. And our goal for our project was to study the impact of community health evangelism on physical and spiritual outcomes in Guatemala. This sounds really vague, but we had to do a lot of work to get here, and encompasses a whole lot of things. So this is where my traveling journey started. In June this summer, I flew to Arizona, and I received training in the Global CHE Network. I was actually trained by the CHE founder himself. This is Terry Dalrymple. I'm standing there with my graduation certificate with Dr. Palter. So I got to learn all the background on how CHE worked so that when I was studying it in Guatemala, I would kind of know what was going on. So at the beginning of July, I flew to Guatemala and met the whole CHE team. This is me and my traveling partner, Abby. She and I were going to be conducting the research in Guatemala. Our guide when we were in Guatemala is Dr. Gomez. He was part of the CHE team there. And we stayed in this city called Quetzaltenango. It's right here in Guatemala, which is in Central America. This is where we stayed, but we went all over the country to conduct our research. I think the farthest we drove in one day was like 7 hours. It was kind of intense. So our goal was to visit 20 homes in each village and do our questionnaire, and that's how we were going to collect our data. So this is the first village that we visited. It's called La Loma. Here's Abby and I again in front of a really beautiful bougainvillea bush. This was our morning breakfast view. We ate a lot of meals outside, which was really, really cool. And Guatemala is a very mountainous and super green country. So we just had a beautiful morning, a beautiful view everywhere that we were looking, which was really neat. Guatemalans share a lot of space. So in this room, that was probably like 12 feet by 10 feet. There were like 15 people in there, and we all ate a meal, jam-packed, shoulder to shoulder. And we found out that this is how we were going to eat most of our meals. It was really fun to experience the culture there and just learn a lot about how Guatemalans lived their life and how to incorporate that into our research. So the next place that we went is a clinic in Huehuetenango. So I got to play with some of the kids. Abby and I, we got to make some really good friends. This was a clinic that was organized by some other Americans with the Global CHE team. So we were not conducting research in this place, but because it was a CHE program, we got to be part of it. So one of the really cool things that I got to do is I learned how to give medical injections. I got to help out with some surgeries that would be illegal in the United States. We were in a room with like blue tarp walls and dirt floors and like flashlights for lights. That would be so illegal here, but it was really, really cool that I got to do that, be part of it. I know all you nursing students are probably really jealous, but it was really cool. So we went to La Vista Hermosa next, which means the beautiful view, which is so true. Like I said, Guatemala is just gorgeous. So this is kind of what Abby and I looked like when we were conducting interviews. One of us had an iPad where we were filling in our questionnaire, going through our interview, and the other person was taking notes of things that we couldn't exactly note on our questionnaire. For example, one time we weren't allowed to enter a home because the wife said that her husband was passed out drunk. From listening to conversation, we were able to find out that that the husband was passed out, like blackout drunk. It wasn't just like, oh, he needs to lay down because he was drinking too much. This is something that there wasn't a place to note that in our survey and our interview, but this is significant health data that would influence how our final results would look like. So that's how we conducted our interviews. This lady is Susanna. She gifted me this hat, which if you come to my apartment, you'll see it hanging up on my wall. I just wanted to include this picture because these people were so welcoming and really just welcomed Abby and I into their country and into their homes to study them and study their faith and their health. So this was really neat that we got to meet so many new people. The next village that we went to was Pashposh. Here we have some cats by the oven. This is the warmest spot in the house. This is a pretty bulky home. Most homes don't have stone and wood and tiles in their homes, but this one is really nice, and I just thought the cats looked kind of cute. So we also were gifted these really beautiful shirts. I'm wearing mine right now. This is handmade by Guatemalan women. They take a lot of pride in their dressing. So this is a traditional Guatemalan dress. We felt really special that they had prepared these. They knew that we landed in the country a couple weeks before, so they hurried and made these for us so they could send us off with them. So this is a really sweet gift that I get to keep now. Another really fun thing is I got to hike a volcano. That was super awesome. This is not exactly part of the research, but if any of you students get a chance to travel with the Meros Center, you can expect to have just a little bit of time to go do fun stuff. So we got to watch this volcano explode at night. We hiked up all the way to here, and it was just really, really beautiful. So once we came back to the United States, it was time to kind of go through all of our data and information and make sense of it. So Abby and I, we reviewed our notes, and with Dr. Palter, we started coordinating where everything went, how to just make it all make sense again. So this project started in January is when the class started, and our published work will be out and available for anybody to read in a couple of months, we're hoping. So it's been a whole year-long process, and it's been a really long one, but I feel super blessed that I got to be part of it. So these are just some of my personal reflections. Research is not scary. It's this really big, long word that as an undergrad, I'm like, whoa, I'm not qualified to do that. That's really intense, and I don't know anything about research. But with Dr. Palter's guidance and with the Meros Center that's coming to be available to students here, I got to be part of just learning what the process is like and understanding that it's really not all that complicated. The Meros Center offers a ton of support for making these projects successful. So research is not scary. I also wanted to note that anyone can do it. We had a combination of all different kinds of backgrounds and people from different disciplines that contributed to the success of this program. So I'm studying Spanish and anthropology. My partner, Abby, who is traveling with me, she has an education degree. Our guide in Guatemala is a medical doctor. Dr. Palter is a data analyst. We were from all over the place, and we all contributed to the success of this project, which I guess that's also where the Meros comes in. Everyone is part of what we're working towards. Again, it was really cool to see how the research process became a very tangible and real thing that will eventually will give our results to the CHE program so they can make changes for improvement, and this will further advance the gospel in Guatemala. I feel super, super blessed and really, really excited that I got to be part of the expansion in Guatemala. Like, how cool is that? I was part of influencing the program that is going to be part of bringing people to Jesus, and I get to see all those people in heaven again one day. And I did most of my work in Wisconsin. I'm not in South America right now, but all my work that I did for preparation for this research, I did in Wisconsin. So research is not that scary. Anyone can do it, and you don't have to go super, super far to make an impact on the kingdom. So besides just research experience and everything that I just talked about, there are a couple of things that I just hold really near and dear to my heart. As an anthropologist, I got to learn more about the culture in Guatemala, which I think is really neat. I got to speak Spanish some more. That was fun. Internationally traveling experience as an adult, I think is really important and a valuable skill for everybody to have. I've made really lifelong friendships. My friend Abby and I, we talk all the time, and she's going to be one of my best friends forever. I've made international connections all around the world. Dr. Palter helped me to do that, and people that I met personally. I know if I go back to Guatemala, I'll be welcomed to any one of those homes that I visited. I met so many hermanos, which I will see again in heaven. Hermanos means brothers and sisters, and that's what everybody in Guatemala called each other. Everybody there was just a family. They just live with so much joy that they get to live in the grace of God and the love of God, that they're just welcoming to everybody who approaches them in their home. Everybody's an hermano, and I'm really excited to just see those people again. That just makes my heart super happy. Just something else that I'll be able to keep in my memory forever is I got to see God's creation in another really beautiful country. That was really, really neat. And I got to see God's grace and love like in the faces of the people that are not like me. These Guatemalans and I, we don't look alike, we don't live lives that are similar, but again, they just live with such joy, and I just admire that they can share their faith in the way that they live, in the way that they love each other, in the way that they greet everybody, and it's just so cool to see. God's really got the whole world in his hands, and he loves every single person individually, and that's just really, really special to me that I got to be part of the expansion of the kingdom in Guatemala through this Meros Center. So, that's what I got.
I love hearing Elise tell her story, and I learn something new each time. I think I've, of course, talked to her and Abby when they first got back, and then since then having conversations with her, and now hearing it again, learning something new about her experience. And I'm just really grateful for her and her persistence, her confidence throughout this whole process. That really was new. But just learning through it, enjoying the process and the journey. Not only for her, but also the people she was interacting with. You know, those pictures of the family she got to connect with, and again, those relationships that are growing, and relationships that are centered around Jesus. And we're just really thankful for her and Abby, Dr. Gomez, and all the work he's doing in Guatemala. The Global Chain Network is a network of over 100 organizations that are all doing community health evangelism. So as we do this work in Guatemala, we're going to be doing another study in Ghana. We get to influence this entire network, which is really, really a neat thing to think about and to be a part of. I just want to share with you some opportunities for you as faculty and students to consider in terms of the Meros Center. So tomorrow, Elise and I are going to be talking about creating a student organization that will really help foster the projects and the work we do through the Meros Center. So if you're interested in that, we're going to be meeting tomorrow down here at 9 a.m. Correct? So come and join us. Be part of this kickoff of the student organization to really bring students together. And if you can't be part of it because of class or something, just let us know, and we'll get you involved. Faculty, same thing. If this is something that you'd be interested in being a part of and working with students, working alongside them, as you saw, it can be a really rewarding experience, as you all know, in seeing students grow in this space. So we hope that you can join us. Also, if you have a research idea, share it with us. If after hearing this message tonight, so man, this has been on my heart of thinking about how faith and health might be integrated in this way, or wellness. Let's talk. Whether you're a student or a faculty member, or staff member, let's talk. We all have a role to play. We all have a part to play in developing this evidence base. So engage with one of our existing projects as well. Our website is going to be up and functioning very soon, within the next few weeks, and on that site you'll see a number of the projects that we have going on. We have about 6 that are currently happening right now, with others coming online in the future. So that's something to keep on top of. And then enroll in the Community Health Ministry Certificate, if that is something of interest to you. The first cohort will launch January 23rd. That's our plan, and run for 28 weeks. It'll be all online, asynchronous, really making it flexible for individuals that are working full-time and living in different time zones. We want this to be truly a cross-cultural training experience. So if that's of interest, come seek us out. We have an application link that's ready to go for you to enroll. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. David Miller. Dr. Miller is going to close us out for tonight. He is the board chair for Kingdom Workers and also a regent on the WLC board. So he helps us bridge this joint venture very effectively. Dr. Miller and I have gone back since 2013. He was part of the very first sort of Health Alliance initiative with Kingdom Workers, and it's been a true blessing and joy that I get to stand shoulder to shoulder with him tonight and launch this initiative with him. So with that, Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Jason. By the way, that video was exceptionally well done, very high quality. I really liked it. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come and just give some final closing thoughts here. As Jason mentioned, my name is David Miller. I have the privilege of serving many roles. As a regent for the Wisconsin Lutheran College, I also serve on the management committee for the Meros Center, but I'm serving as the chair of the Kingdom Workers Board of Directors, and it is in that role that I'm addressing you this evening on behalf of the board. It's really exciting and energizing to see so many people interested in this research and education center for Christian health ministry. I just want to start by taking everybody back to their Bible studies. So think back to the story of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. They didn't wander aimlessly through the desert. They were guided by God. And how did he do that? Right? A pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. So I ask all of you, in your quiet times of your life, when you're in prayer with God, do you sometimes ask him for that kind of guidance? Whether it's for a personal issue or for some collective item related to a group or an organization? Well, I admit that I do. But I also admit that I have yet to see a blazing neon sign that says, take that job, marry that person, start that research or training. And I suspect many of you would say the very same thing. But that doesn't mean that he's still not listening to our prayers and he's still not guiding us. But for us to fully realize and take advantage of that guidance requires three things. The first is faith. And that's simply faith in his promises, that he is guiding us and that he has our best interests at heart. There are a lot of passages in the Bible that clearly show that. One that comes to mind is Paul's message to the Romans, to the Christians in Rome, where he says, we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God. So the second is the wisdom to see when he puts those opportunities and those signposts in your life. Sometimes they're subtle, but they're there nonetheless. And the third is courage. So courage to sometimes walk through that open door. And that means sometimes taking a chance, but with trust and confidence. So I'm grateful and thankful that the leadership at Wisconsin Lutheran College and Kingdom Workers had the faith, had the wisdom, and had the courage to make the Meros Center a reality. So the mission of Kingdom Workers is to spread the gospel by deploying Christians in locally sustainable mission work, addressing the physical and spiritual needs of communities worldwide. That's our mission statement. And I have to admit, when Bill Meyer, Elisa's father, who's the president and CEO of Kingdom Workers, first approached the idea of developing an education center with Wisconsin Lutheran College, and the first conversation was at least 3 years ago, I believe, I was a little skeptical. And I was a little skeptical because I'm always concerned about mission creep within an organization. But after many conversations and heartfelt prayer, I'm fully convinced that the Meros Center is completely in line with the Kingdom Workers' mission. And moreover, it allows us to accomplish things together that we could not accomplish alone. Wisconsin Lutheran College is the ideal partner for this venture. They have a track record of providing high-quality Christian education and also training dedicated Christian servant leaders. So the Meros Center provides opportunities to answer, I think, two important issues related to Christian health ministry. The first is, what is it and how do we do it? I think for a lot of us, the idea of Christian health ministry is relatively new. And the training aspect of the center will allow you to get the education and the experience to really realize your potential as a Christian servant leader. And the second is the question about what are the most effective strategies for conducting Christian health ministry. And the research aspect of the Meros Center really gives us an opportunity to answer that essential question, which, in my opinion, is really neglected when you think about Christian ministries. So in conclusion, I thank God for the blessings that He's given to both Kingdom Workers and Wisconsin Lutheran College. In particular, our ability to join together to start the Meros Center. I pray that this center can serve as an example for collaboration and cooperation among Christian organizations. And I thank God for the devoted and faithful leaders, staff, and students that He has already provided for the Meros Center. So thank you for coming this evening. And I just want to close with a promise from God that's recorded in Psalms. I will make you wise. I will instruct you in the way you should go. I will guide you, keeping my eye on you. Thank you.
That concludes our event for tonight. I want to thank you all for coming and really appreciate your support of this joint venture that we have launched tonight. Thank you for coming. We will be hanging around. Please talk with us, chat with any of us about some of the projects or just questions you might have. And please have a safe night driving home. God bless.